Welcome to today's session where our presenter will talk about generative AI, path to value in practice and what we learned so far. This session is a level 100, and in this session you'll learn more about Gen AI and how this can be used in reality and provide value to you and your customers. Please join me in welcoming onto the stage Slavik, our head of AI and is a specialist solutions architect here at AWS.
Thank you. Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me for this session. So in the first 2 years of the generative AI era, everybody was so excited about this new technology that we were throwing resources at it without asking too many questions. But towards the end of 2024, a new question emerged, and it's been growing louder and louder. Where is the value? It turns out that extracting value out of this very promising technology has turned more difficult than we all would have liked. Now, the good news here is that majority of the obstacles faced are self-inflicted, and therefore there's something can be done about them. So in this session, I will share with you some of the lessons we have learned by working with the early adopters of this technology. Hopefully, they will help you accelerate your journey. Now, AI systems start as proof of concept, or POC, some call it POC. If successful, POCs get deployed to production. If that stage is successful, then now you have a chance to drive adoption among your target audience. And if that adoption is achieved, then finally there is an opportunity to harvest value. This cycle is not unique to AI systems, but I thought it would be helpful to reiterate. What is unique to AI systems is an extremely high failure rate at every stage of this journey. And so let's take a look at each stage in greater details. What are the common obstacles that our customers face and what can be done about it? Now, there are many different ways. Each individual POC can be assessed successful or not based on different set of criteria, but when looking across all POCs, one way of assessing their success is the rate at which they go to production. And one common pattern across AI POCs is that majority of them end like this. POCs are experiments, and experiments are meant to fail. But when they do fail, you want to maximize the learning value, and you do want some of them to succeed. So what are the common reasons for POC failure? Well, this one could seem obvious, but pause and think. If you are doing a Gen AI POC today, can you clearly articulate its success criteria? If I ask every member of the POC team independently, will they repeat the same success criteria? What about the stakeholders outside of the team? Overconfidence is probably one of the biggest problems in AI POCs. I see customers taking on the experiments that far exceeds their technical expertise. No wonder many of them fail. The tools of AI are emerging very fast, and it's sometimes difficult to make sense of what is good for which situation. And so it's very common and very often that customers use wrong tools for the job, which makes it unnecessarily difficult or even impossible to succeed. And far too often, if left to their own devices, geek will chase what's cool, not what's helpful, which also doesn't help with POC success rate. Now, here are some of the things that you can do to increase the success rate of your POCs. You need to develop a decision-making framework to decide of all ideas that will pop up, which ones you want to progress and invest as experiments. And also, when you do decide to invest in them as an experiment, how will you define that an experiment is successful? And it's time to either stop and fail fast or progress further. You also want to eliminate the number of variables. AI experiments are difficult and prone to failure as they are, and you want to make sure that what isn't the focus of experiment isn't a variable and isn't add to your failure rate. Use higher level components and off-the-shelf software, managed services, anything that is proven to work to eliminate that variable. Be critical and mindful of your own skill level. Understand that, yes, ambition is good, yes, learning is great. If you're doing something to learn, then it is not a POC, although it's useful in its own right. And finally, be mindful of geeks' propensity to chase what's cool. Have mechanism to maintain the focus of your experiment so that it progresses you towards that success criteria, that hypothesis that you either invalidate, in which case you gained learning, or validate, in which case you proceed to production. What AWS can do to help? Well, first, we offer you a broad set of AI tools at different layers of abstraction, from ready-to-use applications to a rich set of components for building custom AI applications, to a rich set of components to working with models. Choose the right tools from this toolbox to reduce the number of variables and reduce the failure rate of your experiments. We also offer you a broad set of models. Different models are better for different things. So between models and tools, we give you a broad and rich set of tools to reduce the number of variables, to pick the right tool for the job, and both of those should increase the success rate of your POCs. Finally, we have teams that specialize on prototyping and helping our customers prototype. We had these teams since 2016, but when Gen AI popcorn popped, we invested millions of dollars into a specialized kind of prototyping team that we call Generative AI Innovation Center. Here in Australia, Rio Tinto, Splash Music, Orion Health, and dozen other customers just here in Australia and New Zealand, and hundreds of others around the world, have benefited from working with Generative AI Innovation Center. Now, let us assume that you followed all these best practices, you've partnered with the right team, your experiment is successful, and now it is time to go to production. Fun, isn't it? Actually not. Those who try to deploy AI systems to production often feel like this. It is very, very hard. What are some of the reasons why we struggle to go from POC to production? The most common reason by far is that a set of architectural shortcuts that we took during the POC are not suitable for production. Yet, too many customers naively take the architecture of that emerged during the POC and try to scale it to production as is. That is probably the number one reason the POCs cannot go into production. Number two is data. Consciously or subconsciously, customers choose the prettiest slice of data for their experiments. But when you go into production, you have to deal with all of it, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And when your POC faces the data, it often fails. Another one is operations. When you experiment, it is totally acceptable to use duct tape and rope to cobble together an exciting demo. But when you go into production, everything has to be integrated, everything has to be instrumented, everything has to be automated. And last but not least, this one sneaks up on you before you know, and usually comes unexpected. There are such teams as security, compliance, legal, and I see too many systems that are actually otherwise ready to go to production, but aren't going there because they couldn't get compliance, security, legal sign-off. That is becoming so prevalent that I'm calling them teams no. Now, there are a few things that you could do to reduce the friction on the way to production. Number one, you have to consider all three dimensions of your system: quality, latency, cost. And you need to decide which are more important for your system and optimize for those. Second is data. Data is difficult to reshape. So you just need to take into account the state of your data, be open with yourself about it, and take it, include it in the decision-making framework for what to experiment on, what to prioritize as your POCs. I would suggest that you prioritize as the first cohort of your POCs those that go into the area where your data is already good. And at the same time, you invest proactively in the rest of your data to make it AI ready. We are at the age of great uncertainty, great ambiguity, and one way to deal with it is, and this is similar with where we were with the internet, and so one way to deal with it is the same way we dealt with it during the early 2000s, is rediscover Agile, and specifically element of Agile, cross-functional teams. As you build those AI systems, I encourage you to rediscover that principle and create cross-functional teams that include people from all functions, including representatives of the end user, if possible, including representatives from security and other teams know. And that team is far more likely to produce the product that will be successful than if you have silos, something is done here, something is done here, something is done there. Another thing is, be mindful about the scope of your POC, right? On the one hand, you want to eliminate variables, and this is where you're going to use higher level components that are proven to work. On the other hand, when you exit your experiment, you want to make sure that you're likely to succeed. So think about those obstacles on the way to production. It's data, maybe it's operations, maybe it's security, and include them in scope of your experiment, right? You would want to test them early, so if they are insurmountable, you fail fast. The earlier you fail, the cheaper it is. Now, when it comes to production, there are three big enemies of all production systems: complexity, scale, and time. Almost any system will be challenged if it brought to the level of scale for which it wasn't architected. Every change to a system introduces complexity, and over time it accumulates, snowballs until it's unbearable. And time, the only constant is change. Code changes, models evolve, people move on, and all those three combined will challenge absolutely any system. It is true for software systems, and it is true for AI systems, which are essentially special kind of software systems. So let's look at this very simple RAG architecture. Seems simple enough. But now consider all the things that could change here. Consider adding a new user persona with a new set of queries. Consider adding a new data source. Consider what happens if you have a sudden spike in data volume, sudden spike in usage. You need to upgrade the model that is used for indexing. The underlying data is drifting, and more and more and more. So there is no magic in getting through it. There are only two paths. You learn it through your own trial and error, or you build on the trial and error of others. Now, when it comes to AI, because it's so exciting and everybody wants to get their hands dirty, I see more customers than necessary going the trial and error path. The unfortunate truth is that most of you cannot afford the trial and error path because you have no way of monetizing it. Now, your leadership may currently seem friendly and supportive and encouraging you to do things, but the credit of leadership patience is limited. We've seen this movie before. We've seen it with our early customers. The time will come when your leadership will turn into demanding and start asking what happened with all that investment of time and money. And then you will turn from a technology hero on the frontiers of the new promising technology to somebody who has to explain what happened. Not a good place to be. Now, as I mentioned, AI systems are just special kind of software systems. And so many principles of software apply and many tools used with software apply. AWS has helped millions of customers succeed in building complex software systems. And we have learn through trial and error how to build and maintain and keep secure high complexity systems. And we encoded all that experience into the best practices, tools, and managed services that we provide to you. And they can help you work with data, with AI, with software, with operations, with security. So I encourage you to use our tools where they work. Prioritize, start by saying which tools can I use, and then where do I need to customize, rather than let me try to do everything, and only after you fail multiple times, okay, let's reluctantly use a tool. You do not have as much time, as much money, and as much leadership patience as you think, so do not reinvent the wheel. Another thing I want you to consider, during POC, the most common architectural pattern is LLM-centric system. You have a model in the center, and all tasks use the same model. Totally understandable. When you go to production, many customers discover that for certain tasks, it is better to use specialized models. In fact, many customers discover that Nova models offer them superior price performance that helps them break through the cost or latency barrier that are necessary to deploy systems in production at scale. These are our own models, and we're just beginning. They will evolve very fast, and you can expect additional modalities. You can expect additional versions of existing models. They are optimized for price performance, and they're optimized for customization. They're also responsible AI by design, so we feel confident in the data that we use to train them so much that we provide full indemnification of their output. And last but not least, they integrate natively with our other tools, such as Bedrock agents, knowledge bases, and guardrails, which means less plumbing for you to do, eliminates the number of variables, reduces the rate of failure. Now, of course, everything that I say applies to the glorious world of agents as well. If you look at the simple agent flow system, it may look like this on paper, but as you go into production, you need to worry about evaluation and observability, and if you probably want your agent to evolve and learn over time. So the system becomes more complex. Now, you never build agent to have only one agent. You usually want your appetite will grow. You would want dozens, then hundreds. And you usually start with agent that is mostly deterministic, but gradually you would want them to be more and more autonomous. So think about it. That was a single agent. You're now going to have hundreds of them. Their degree of autonomy is going to grow. Add complexity, scale, and time. Do you really want to manage all of it? We understand that it is difficult for our customers to manage all of that, and we understand that agentic is the future. So AWS is investing heavily in the tools to help with our customers work with AI agents. We have ready-to-use AI agents that can be used as is or customized to your need. And for those who want to build, we provide rich set of tools from which you could build agents. These tools are integrated with major open source frameworks as well as third-party tool providers. And last but not least, AWS professional services and rich partner ecosystem. We have developed expertise over time in building and maintaining and operating and evolving complex software systems. And we're now extending this expertise into the area of AI. Understand what you have skills for and what you don't, and make sure to partner with others to help you be more successful. Let's say you use all of those advice and follow those best practices. Your system is deployed to production successfully, and you can operate it without wasting all your available AI engineering resources to eyeball the darn thing. Can you declare success? Unfortunately not. The system that is successful in production and that nobody uses is still a failure. One of the things we're beginning to discover is adoption doesn't happen by itself. So what are some of the main reasons why you build it and they don't come? The most common reason, by far, is because many of the early AI systems were more reflection of the ambition of the leadership or curiosity of engineers than the end user needs. And so they simply miss the boat. Another common reason is the power of inertia. We often see when the new tool arrives, there is a spike of curiosity as people try a new tool, and then the trough of indifference as they go back to doing things the old way. Let's face it, some people are afraid of AI. They think that AI will take their job, and so there is also cases of quiet sabotage. And finally, there are misaligned of incentives, right? Humans will always optimize their behavior based on how their success is measured. And when you introduce AI, there may be a need, and often is a need, to change the incentive system. If it doesn't change, it will drive the old behavior regardless of what is available. Now, what are some of the things that you can do to move the needle here? Well, first, focus on unwanted tasks. We've seen a lot stronger adoption when AI was helping with unwanted tasks. Let me give you one example that probably resonates with many of you. Almost every company has a software development team. You introduce AI as a developer productivity tool, the adoption, lukewarm. But AI is actually tech debt repaying tool. And now there is adoption. Because everybody knows tech debt is there, nobody likes tech debt, and nobody wants to repay it. So if AI can take care of that, sign me up. Another thing we found is it really helps to identify and foster internal champions. Usually those are employees who are held in high regard by their peers. And so if they can get value out of AI and then be vocal with their peers and show them how to do that, you will get adoption a lot faster. It also helps to lead by example from the top. We found that in the companies where the leaders also lean forward and start to use those tools and then also share with their teams how they got value out of those tools, there is much stronger adoption. And then the last but not least, as you introduce AI, you want to invest in your humans. You want to make sure that your humans become AI proficient and they feel like they can lean on and build on AI to become even better at what they do. This will help overcome that sort of fear and quiet sabotage. Now, what AWS can do? One thing we could do is we have a process called working backwards, and we can share that with you and to make sure that help you improve the odds that what you're building will resonate with your end users. Also, AWS and our technology partners provide a very rich set of observability tools. You cannot drive adoption unless you can measure it. And so it is important for you to instrument your AI systems so that you can measure adoption and you can see which actions lead to adoption. Also, it is smart people learn from their mistake, wise people learn from mistakes of others. We work with hundreds of thousands of customers already who have tried AI, and we observe what works, what doesn't, and we can share the lessons learned and their mistakes with you so you can learn from their mistakes rather than do your own. And because once we learned that adoption is a common challenge, we invested in sub-program within Gen AI Innovation Center called Center of Acceleration. So Gen AI Innovation Center can help you at the prototyping phase, and they can also help establish a center of acceleration within your company that will accelerate adoption of AI. Now, I already mentioned Amazon working backwards. This is something that is at the core of Amazon DNA and how we make sure that majority of the products, internal or external, that we deliver hit the mark. Until recently, we just shared with customers that we have this. But with AI, when adoption became such a big obstacle, we realized that we want to teach customers how to apply it internally. So we turn it into a workshop, and we can teach you how to apply it within your company. Okay. So let's assume that you have done all of it. You followed all of these best practices. You have your system in production, and it is actually being used. Can you declare success? Unfortunately, not yet. Because if the system is in production and being used, but you cannot articulate the value, the monthly bill is guaranteed. But when CFO comes knocking, what do you tell him? Right? And the project leaders who were caught in the technology and didn't think about this question often find themselves in a very uncomfortable situation today. So, what are the reasons to value, hurdles to realizing value? Well, one, the value is hard to measure. For many use cases that, that customers attempt, the value is very hard to measure. The other is value can be measured, but the cost grows faster than the value. Another one is outdated performance metrics. Right, so the value may be there, but you're not applying the right metrics. And finally, the rigid processes. There may be a way to realize the value, but you need to change your process, and customers are reluctant to change their processes. So what you could do to overcome this? Well, first, I suggest that you always start with the value hypothesis. If you cannot, and what is value hypothesis? If this is wildly successful, what would be the value? If you cannot articulate that, don't start the experiment. Second is you bring value hypothesis into the experimentation stage. So essentially your POC, proof of concept, becomes POV, proof of value. Another one is as you architect the system, you do it in a cost-conscious way. It's always been true for cloud systems, but it's even more true for AI systems because of how the cost can sneak up on you. And finally, you embrace the culture of continuous improvement. This is new, this is highly ambiguous, you are very likely to get it wrong on the first time, you just have to embrace it and continue with it. Now, how we can help? Well, one thing is we have developed well-architected framework, which among other things also makes sure that you build cost-conscious architectures. And we're extending it into AI age to take on all aspects of AI systems, including the cost aspect of the architecture. And sometimes, let's face it, the best way to save money is to get a better price. So we have a lot of private pricing and other incentives for you to build your AI workloads on AWS or to migrate them to AWS or to reduce the cost of you partnering with others to do it for you. Okay, so we covered the key stages of AI adoption, and I'm going to skip this in the interest of time. Unfortunately, you're gonna probably see it everywhere else in many other presentations of how Amazon uses AI. And let me flip to the summary. So let's summarize what are the key things you can do to make sure that you can successfully realize value of AI. First, have the value hypothesis and bring it into your experimentation stage, turning your POC into POV. Second, be very mindful what is the scope of your POV. Consider all the hurdles along all the stages and see if you can explore them early. If you fail fast, you fail cheap. Rediscover Agile and make sure those teams are representative. They have representation from all the relevant stakeholders. Instrument everything. It will help you with operations. It will help you with adoption. In fact, instrument your business like you instrument your systems. That will help you with value realization. And finally, don't forget about adoption. In most cases, it doesn't happen by itself. And last but not least, don't do it alone. We're here to help. Thank you.